In today's video, I'm trying to be positive. I really am. I don't want to be pessimistic. I don't want to be a negative Nancy. I don't want to be the guy that brings the series down. But I just have to be honest, guys. Dragon Ball fans couldn't give the slightest F. As a matter of fact, let's be a little creative with the wordage here so I can, slip this in. Dragon Ball fans couldn't give a flying nimbus about what was recently announced, but for the 1.3% of you that actually give a crap, or the percentage of you that just want to hear a grown man rant about an ancient series, well, you're in for your money today, because we're going to talk about something that was recently announced where it was reported by Herms, and he also posted a link to this on his X account that led to the Dragon Ball official page, where we're finding out that Dragon Ball Super Chapter 101 is going to come out in March as like its special issue. And as you can see here, this issue, you can see that it's still in progress. And what we're learning here is that Carmine is going to return from Magenta's low-key funeral, and he kept this, under wraps so that he could avoid police attention, because obviously in this version, unlike the Dragon Ball superhero movie, I don't want to say super twice because it sounds stupid, saying superhero, even though I just did it. But the point I'm trying to say is that Magenta basically died, and they had a funeral for him, and Carmine is kind of like starting things all over again. And if you look through the sketches from what we're going to see in Chapter 101, you can see that Goten and Trunks are going after these guys. And the thing that makes this all interesting is it kind of seems like we're going more towards this little side story with Goten and Trunks again, in this little slice of life kind of thing. And here's the honest truth, guys. Dragon Ball fans don't care about this, man. Let's just be real, we want to see Black Frieza, we want to see what Dragon Ball Daima is gonna be. And the only way that I could see Dragon Ball fans giving the slightest F about this, the slightest flying nimbus, I'm gonna keep saying flying nimbus to, make it obvious what I'm trying to say without saying it, because unfortunately, guys, the way that censorship is nowadays, I can't say the things that the old school Qaaman could get away with saying. You know what I'm saying? I gotta be family friendly here. But going back to all of this, we don't want this, man. We're gonna have to wait a whole month to see this drawn-out filler arc about the Red Ribbon Army when we already had a movie about this almost 2 years ago at this point. For real, man? Are we really wasting this much time and energy on this? I'm trying, guys. I'm trying to care, but it's just man, this sucks. Let's move on to, real stuff. Let's get past this 10-year time skip. Let's see characters evolve and train, and the only way I could honestly see, the Red Ribbon Army actually having relevance all over again and actually making Dragon Ball fans care is if they're creating some new type of entity that's even more powerful than Max Cell. I think the only way you could get Dragon Ball fans to legitimately care is if you were making, a perfect version of Max Cell. And this time you're gonna need Goku and Vegeta and all of the other characters to come back and fight, but it's just but if you do that, you just basically wasted our time, because the whole Max Cell thing was to set up an even bigger arc about an even stronger version of Cell. So you created an entire movie, you created a prequel filler arc of Goten and Trunks, building up to the superhero arc, just to tell us that Max Cell really wasn't the strongest version of Cell, so then you're gonna create a new one on top of that to say, actually, that was just the beginning of what we're really gonna see, an even stronger version of Cell that's gonna require the forces of all of Goku and his friends. And it's but we just went through an entire arc of this, we want to see something else, and the way that, the granola arc concluded, I feel like it opened up a lot of interesting things that Dragon Ball could explore. You know, it went a lot into Bardock, it went a lot into the wish that Bardock made, even though a lot of Dragon Ball fans had issue with this. It went really deeply into the Ceruleans, you know, touched on Frieza's backstory with the heaters, and he killed them in gas and all that stuff. And I feel like even if you say ultimately the arc just kind of ended or was put on hiatus, that arc at least brought up a lot of interesting things about Dragon Ball lore. And granted, it rewrote a lot of things and caused issues in other areas, but for the most part, I feel like it at least felt like we were expanding on the series. But the problem with all of this is that all this Red Ribbon leftover stuff is just kind of like a continuation of something that we were already seeing more than, or shall I say, almost 2 years ago. So in reality, because of the extremely slow amount of pacing of the manga, combined with the fact that we already saw this in movie form, it really feels like we are getting the fillerest filler that ever filled the Dragon Ball universe. Like, we're like stuck in this space of like, let's kind of go on past this. Let's see something new. And I really hope, you know, honestly, that this chapter really brings up some interesting insights, guys, because trust me, guys, I'm really trying my absolute best to be optimistic. I really am. But I know the Dragon Ball fan base, and I'm speaking to you, you know, from the bottom of my heart, and I don't want you to take it the wrong way when I say speaking to you from the bottom of my heart, but I'm just telling you because I've been making Dragon Ball videos for years now. You know, I have been making videos, and I've made so many videos, I've interacted with so many Dragon Ball fans to the point where I've gained an ability in the force of the universe, where I can like sense the Dragon Ball fans in my head. It's like you guys can communicate with me in my brain without me even having to make a video and talk to you or make a post or anything. Like, I can feel your force speaking to my soul. And your force is saying you couldn't give the slightest flying nimbus about this. To the point where somebody would have to pay you a lump sum of money to even remotely, slightly convince you to even care about this. And I'm just gonna be honest, like, I've been working on content behind the scenes that's way more advanced and things that I feel that the community could really like expand and get better conversations on, because it's just kind of funny how, you know, the Dragon Ball community is kind of going back to where it was before, where everything old becomes new again. All of the old discussions actually feels a lot more refreshing and interesting to talk about instead of the actual more modern stuff of Dragon Ball that we're getting. But I feel, honestly, to be more positive, that this is just a short-term thing. When Daima comes around, when this arc continues and goes into another direction, I feel like we're going to have a much better time. But we will painfully go through this extremely excruciating, predictable, retold version of Dragon Ball Super for the short time being. And as opposed to that, I actually thought about something else here. Another interesting thing about the Dragon Ball community is the fact that just like it was kind of in the hiatus when I started making Dragon Ball videos years ago, when there was really no new content, the newest thing that we actually had in terms of like anime, I guess you could say, would have been like Yo Son Goku and his friends return. This was before Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, and everything. And the interesting thing about the Dragon Ball community is that video games always seem to be like the one thing that Dragon Ball fans will always continuously do over and over again whenever the anime is kind of like off the air and not doing its thing. Like, it seems like for whatever reason, we can always go back to old video games, especially games that are extremely old or games that should have had, you know, a third installment after such an extremely long amount of time, even though they haven't come out yet. And I feel like as a result of that, that's really what 2024 is going to be in addition to Daima. I feel like 2024 is going to be a fantastic year for Dragon Ball, even if the earlier part of it is going to be slow. And I really honestly feel like eventually, far into the future, when Sparking Zero comes out and, you know, a lot of other things, I feel like we're going to be in a much better space. But until then, guys, we're gonna have to suffer in the short term.